there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths, the podcast by Collaboration Global, and my name is Jill Tiny. As is the norm when I get chatting to somebody, we've kind of started the podcast before we've started the podcast. So I had to tell Jane to hang on a minute, let's press record and get this out there for the rest of the world. So welcome, Jane. Lovely to have you on the podcast today.
Oh, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I really am I'm so excited to be a part of Collaboration Global, of such a positive movement for social change and good things.
Bless you. Thank you. So you have kind of come with a hop, skip and a jump into Collaboration Global. Can you tell me the first thing that you realized about it that connected it to you and your heart and why you wanted to become part of it?
Well, there's a saying that we spend most of our life finding our tribe, finding people that inspire us and support us and, lift us up and lift our spirits. And I was introduced to you by a wonderful woman named Anne Scotland, as you know, who's a fellow global collaboration member.
Yeah.
And I was just refreshing. It was just like a breath of fresh air. And I said to myself, my goodness, I found a happy place here. So initially I just thought you had me at hello.
I love it. I love it. And the fact that you say you found your happy place, I'm always referring to, what's your happy place and how can you find contentment and that kind of, as you say, it's your tribe, isn't it? So thank you for that. I really appreciate those kind words. That's it's a really good description for people that have found Collaboration Global and they come to a session. It's like, oh, it's a bit different, isn't it? And it's really, they feel like it's an energetic thing. It just feels right.
Yes.
Right. They don't have to justify it to themselves. They just go, do you know what? It feels good.
Feels good. Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Go with your gut. If it feels good, it feels good. And it does feel good for sure.
Exactly. Let's go with our gut. Well, listen, talking about going with our gut, I didn't know very much about you before you became a member. Obviously, because you've been introduced by one of our other members. Normally, I get to talk to people beforehand. They come to a meeting. I talk to them afterwards. We have good chats. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, you're a member. Wow, this is good. So I did a little bit of stalking, like you do. And not only are you an award-winning author, but your company is My Super Awesome Life Inc. Incorporated. Yes. I think, wow, is that arrogance because you have a super awesome life, or is that just what you're imparting to everybody that you come across?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, you know what? I'm here on this journey really through transformation, positive transformation. There was a time in my life where my life was not super awesome. And I really learned a lot about living intentionally and purposefully and being careful what you let into your life. And also the power of creation, that we're not just passive observers in our life. So when I had my most terrible year and I started writing about it and trying to help others make their life easier and more positive and start fresh and believe in themselves, I thought to myself, I said to the universe, I said, I don't want hard. I'm done with hard and sad. I want a super awesome life. And I thought, what a great name for a company. So it's also a name that resonates. So I hope I come across very sincerely and authentically and humbly, because right now, my life isn't always super awesome every single day, but pretty much is most of the time. It's because I choose happiness. I choose joy. I choose to see things. Choose to see the glass half full rather than half empty, and the silver linings in life.
Yeah. I've said that on this podcast before, that my nan, who died at the ripe old age of 96, always used to say her prayers every night, but she made a good point of saying, Always look for the silver lining when times are
Yes,
tough, because it's always
yes,
there.
it is.
Sometimes you have to look really hard for it,
Yes,
but it's
yes.
always there. You will find it eventually. Um, so you talk about, so this is in front of me as this positive, energized, um, mindful, connected person. But obviously you've come from a different place. So you're not one of these people that are just on and happy and just, really full of
No,
it to
no.
just annoy people. Because you can sit there so easily, don't you? I sit there in judgment a lot of times, and it's like, oh, it's all right for her. She
Yeah.
seems really happy.
Oh,
It's all right for
yes.
her. She can do what she blooming well likes because she's got
Yes.
a. And you make up this story about this other person that seems to have it all.
Yes.
So, where have you come from in order to get this joie de vivre of life, this wonderful energy that you are emitting, which hopefully is coming through the airwaves right now to people listening, and people can see your smile if they're watching on the YouTube channel.
Oh,
They can
good.
see this energy emanating from this powerful positivity. Obviously, I know you don't have that all the time. There are mornings when you don't
Oh,
want to
sure.
get out of bed. It's called life, isn't it? It's just we get up.
Yes.
But where have you
Very
come from in that
nice.
place where you said, no more, I'm not going to take this anymore? What was happening in your life?
Well, I'd come through three very traumatic events in my life. One was an accident that I had. I was sitting in the stands. I was a spectator at a sporting event, and I got hit in the head, like slammed in the face with a volleyball.
Ouch.
Changed my life forever. I mean, obviously, TBIs, they don't always come out the other end with a happy ending.
No.
And thankfully, mine did. But I went through a lot of challenges with my speech at the time. I really had to work very, very diligently with a speech pathologist and my team to get my speech back. I had word finding issues. I had speech aphasia. So if you know anybody that has had a stroke or an injury or a sports injury or any kind of head injury, it can be very devastating, especially if you speak for a living. I mean, I was on top of my game. I was traveling the world. I was in the UK. I was in different countries, facilitating focus groups. I own my own company, working with my partner, and boom, life changed in an instant.
Wow. Yeah.
And then, that you think that would be,
Enough. Yeah.
enough.
Mm.
And about 6 months later, just as I was getting back to, hey, what am I going to do with my life? And I've always been a purposeful person and a very grateful person, and especially grateful for every day. And that's so important in life,
Mm.
but even more so now. And, I had my partner, my fiance at the time, had his own accident. He was in a car accident and he had a catastrophic brain injury.
Oh my
He woke
goodness.
up in the hospital, and the first words out of his mouth were, he said to me, he said, I don't know who anyone is here. I can't remember who anyone
Oh,
is here, but you're the nicest and the prettiest.
oh, bless him. Oh,
Bless
that's
him.
agony.
Oh, yes. And you
Mm.
can imagine someone being so vulnerable. They don't remember their name. They don't remember their life at all. They have no memory of who they are.
Mm.
Children meeting me, engaged, living together, what they do for a living, parents, nothing.
Mm.
And as I said in Butter Side Up, my book Butter Side Up, it was like a Zamboni. If I'm Canadian, so I'm going to use Canadian references, but
Okay.
in Canada, the Zamboni is the machine that clears the ice and just wipes it clean.
Right.
It was just like it was just like, what's the upside of erased? Our life in a moment was erased. It was like a Zamboni on an ice rink clearing the
Wow.
ice.
Yeah.
So, and then I had another very, very tragic incident in my life with a friend. So, you know what? You can't help, you can't help but be affected by that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and when people go through trauma, when they go through difficulties, they often look for a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning. And I really thought that the moment, get back to your question for me was I felt like I was in a principal's office at school. When you're at school and you're getting,
Uh-huh.
reprimanded for, talking out of turn or, not paying attention or
Yeah.
doing something you shouldn't. I said to myself, I feel like I'm in a principal's office and I'm getting reprimanded, but I don't know why. And then I said, I've got to start. I said, I've got two choices. If I'm going to get myself out of this and I'm going to get my partner out of this butter side up,
Mm.
I've got to think differently about my life. So that's when my life changed. That's when my life changed. I mean, life is change. Life is change. But that's when I really started looking at the power of change, the power of positivity. And as I say to people, the past is just a chapter, not the whole book. We've gone through COVID. We're all in this together. That's what people don't realize, that, the upside there. People say, well, what could the upside of COVID be? Well, the upside is that we have all experienced this together.
Yeah.
And we can all relate to each other
Mm.
if we try a little more. And there are people like Global Collaboration, like you, that are there to say, hey, we're here to support each other. There's enough abundance for us all.
Yeah.
Yes, we like to compete, but we would really like to compete with ourselves, and we like to be successful, but we want to do it in a socially ethical way so that we can help others and leave this planet better than we found it. So, that's the altruistic side. The practical side is, you know, you have to accept what is rather than what was. So that's what
really
I'm all about.
interesting. Yeah. A friend of mine had a series of tragedies. She first got divorced. Not long after that, her son died,
Oh,
just
my
crossing the
goodness.
road. And then 9 months later, her daughter, also crossing the road, had a really nasty accident and had
Yeah.
TBI, traumatic brain injury.
I can
Uh,
relate to that. Yes.
Totally. And also about this learning to talk again and learning to walk again, all these things. But she's been on a podcast recently, Amy, the daughter, saying that she's had to make some tough life choices. She realizes that she's choosing not to have children, and she sees that as a positive choice because it would, her mental capacity wouldn't be able to cope with the responsibility of children, and she wouldn't want to put that on a partner. So for the moment, what is she,
Mhm.
30, 36, 37? She's made that decision not to have children. And it's like, you don't realize what people are going through until you hear them talking in that really, I mean, she was so honest and so open about how she's had to learn to do things again and how she's had to put things in place in order
Yes.
to make it okay. So she's, spatial awareness. When she's cooking that she loves doing, she has to be so much more careful. So many
Yes.
little things that she has to do, but she's very clear, as you've just said, it's not what was. She can't look back and go, oh, I can't do that anymore. She looks forward to, but I can do this. I'm
Yes.
still able to do that. And what is what is. It is what it is. And she's taking from that. And that's what I hear coming from you, is like, there's this switch on your mind and this mindfulness space of, don't torture yourself looking down that road. Look at what
No.
could be and find your happiness in that next step forward, going forward. And that, for a lot of people, they don't see that even as an option. They're so clouded in that space of
Yes.
not so much poor me or victim mentality, but they just don't have the capacity to go, okay, this has happened. Now what can I do about it? They haven't got that first step on the rung of the ladder.
Yes. You know
So,
what? I'm happy you brought that up. And cheers to, is her name Amy?
Amy, yeah.
Cheers to Amy, for embracing her life and
Yeah.
being grateful. David Steindl Rast, I love him. I think he's a minister in Stockholm, Sweden. I'm not sure where he's from, but I
Hmm.
quote him often. And you know, today is a good and grateful day.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be talking to you, and I'm grateful I can talk.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my mobility. I'm grateful for the clean water that comes out of the tap. I'm grateful that I have hot and running, cold and hot running
Mm.
water.
Mm.
I'm grateful that I opened my eyes. I'm grateful for the sunshine. And I mean, that's not all rainbows and lollipops.
No.
That's just bare bones, basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if you're looking at, different philosophers, it's outside in thinking, like Michael Singer. It's
Yeah.
looking outside in rather than inside out. It takes a little bit of the sting out of things. It takes a little bit of the emotionality out of it. It's not that we shouldn't be sad. I mean, I've had lots of hard, sad days in my life, but
Hmm.
it's the conscious choice to say, okay, I can park that. I can
Mm.
park that for a moment, and I can be in the audience for a moment and say to myself, okay, if I was a friend talking to myself, what would I say? What would I do?
I
What
love
would
that.
what would be the next step in my life? And that's what I'm all about. It's those practical, tangible, real time. What can I do now to to live joyfully. And I have a saying that I say every day. I say, the rest of my life is the best of my life.
Yeah.
And it's, and it does, it helps you. And that gratitude helps you get through the day. It helps you cope, because sometimes it's not easy. I mean, I'll give you an example. I wouldn't have become an author. I wouldn't, I mean, an author, if probably all of these things happened to me. I never grew up, Jill, saying, I want to write a book. I want to do this. I want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to read. I read every Nancy Drew book and every,
Yeah.
book, children's book there probably was, but I probably wouldn't have met you if all
Mm,
of this other, hard stuff, starting with an S and ending in a T happened. But
mm,
it's not easy change. It's not easy reinventing yourself. It's not easy changing. Change is not always easy. I know somebody in my life that's passed, Peter Drucker, who you may have heard of,
yes.
who is one of the foremost, he was one of the foremost thinkers and thought leaders on organizational change. And I
Mm.
had the pleasure to meet him back in the early 90s and hear him speak. And I said, can you give me a piece of advice about change? And he said, Jane, nobody likes a change except a wet baby. And it's true. We're all hardwired to, oh, I like my coffee this way. I like
Yeah.
this and I like that. And we need that. We need we need a sense of belonging. We
Comfort.
need to cultivate that in our lives,
Mm,
whether no matter where we are. And that's what COVID interrupted. It interrupted that
mm.
ability to have that sense of belonging. So rather than running on in the mouth, that's what I'm about. I'm about a sense of belonging and cultivating a good and grateful life.
Yeah, a sense of belonging. And that's what COVID, you just illustrated there that COVID stopped a lot of things that we were comfortable with. But in the
Mhm.
same breath, it gave us what we were missing. We realized that it was connection rather
Yeah.
than the stuff that we had. It wasn't about the fancy holiday. Oh, I can't go on holiday. It was, I can't see my mum and dad, or I can't see my
Yeah.
friend, or I can't hug my husband because he was away when it was lockdown and now we're miles apart, or
Now we're
whatever it
together
happened to
all the
be.
time. Yeah.
So for me, it was like this massive realization that people lacked, hadn't experienced community. And it wasn't until in the UK, at least, I don't know what you guys did over there, but every Thursday at 8 o'clock, we'd stand on our doorsteps and applaud the NHS for what they were doing
Oh,
across the whole
wow.
country. It was a very emotive thing to see on the news again and again and again. Very emotive thing to do it because we started off like this. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, we've got saucepans and lids and banging and making
Yeah.
as much noise
Yeah.
and
Cheering.
cheering. And it was incredible.
Yeah, and that's what we did in Canada. They did the pots and pans, particularly in Vancouver. But that's what you're doing. You're sharing gratitude, and
But
that's so.
now, I mean, going back to current day, how quickly we forget. What about
Mhm.
the riots across the UK and the damage for people's personal properties? Like, where's the community there? Well,
Yeah.
until, which enlightened all of us, is that there were real communities that did get out and put a physical barrier between themselves and where the refugees were, or where the mosque was, or where the synagogue was, or whatever, saying, this is community. You stay over there. You go not fight yourself, each other, but you're not going to come and you're not going to set fire to this and you're not going to disturb our community. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden, the urgency was back again. It was a very, oh, it's still going on, but it was a very emotive time. And I've always said, we have to take responsibility for all of those kind of things that are going on. And we have to kind of be aware that no matter how bad things can get, we've always got something that we can do about it. And that's for the individual, as well as the family, as well as the relationships, as well as the community. So if you're listening to this and your life is a bit S something something T, there will be something that you can do. And as Jane has just said, there will be something in your life that you can be grateful for. And you can go, well, okay, at least I've got that. So have you got more than one tap in your house that has water coming out of it?
Mhm.
Good for you. That's a good thing. Most of the people in the world don't have that.
No, they don't. No, they
Have
don't.
you got
And
a toilet that's indoors? Oh, you can go on your own toilet and it's private. Not
yeah,
many people in the world have that either. So there are
no,
so
they
many
don't.
things that we just have to stop ourselves and go, that's not my divine right to have running water. That's not my divine right to have privacy while I go to the toilet. But that's what I've got at the moment. How lucky am I? How blessed am I? We were
Well,
lucky and blessed to be
and
born where we were born.
making the choice to say, I do deserve a good life. and taking and then it's the action that comes from it, right? It's clearing your mind. It's getting out of the weeds of overthinking.
Yes.
And right now, I think there's a lot of anger in the world
Yeah.
because there's been, just like, it's like a heart monitor. People often say after COVID, they were saying, oh, well, when we get back to normal, well, that's like a heart monitor.
Yeah.
Life is not like that.
Yeah.
Just as we ride the waves of change, we are still riding the waves of the after effects of a lot of massive global change. Never in the history of our planet have we gone through such rapid, sudden, unexpected change. Now, change, that's the thing I like to remind people of. Change, often people, when they hear the word change, they think negativity. They think, oh, unexpected, uninvited, unwelcome. But there's also planned change too. There's also the change, for example, I'm getting married. I'm getting married. I'm learning to drive a car. I'm choosing to go to university. I'm choosing to start a new business. That's planned change. That's planned change.
Yeah.
And those are joyful things. I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating my anniversary. I'm planning a party. I'm planning a vacation. And that's what, giving, believing that things can be different, but also giving yourself a permission slip to say, I don't have all the answers right now, but it's okay to say no. It's okay to say that's not for me. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into that conflict. I'm going to look for something better, like Collaboration Global. This is a very positive space.
Yeah.
This is a very respectful space.
What's
And
interesting?
people can disagree, but it doesn't matter.
Yes,
because
exactly.
There's still that baseline of you deserve to be treated well. You deserve respect. You deserve kindness. So
Indeed.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
It's really interesting that we had when we used to do the face-to-face stuff pre-COVID, we had a meeting once where we let the young people take over. So there was everything from, it was an 18-month-old baby there all the way through to an 82-year-old.
And quite a perspective. That's
and
amazing.
the children took over part of the meeting, which was amazing. And there's one 8-year-old that gave a brilliant presentation about what success looks like, and he was working the room. You would have been so impressed with this kid. I absolutely loved him. And he was talking about success and what does it look like, and saying, and yes sir, and you, and then after that then we'll talk to you over there. And somebody said, what I've always been disappointed about is I've not been able to do blah blah blah. And this kid just looked him in the eye and he went, yet.
Oh,
and we all went, oh, brilliant, that's amazing. Because
yes,
as adults, we are so easily doing the downward spiral of, oh dear, poor me, oh, what can I do, oh, I'm rubbish at this, I'm no good at that, self-deprecating, putting ourselves down. And there was an 8-year-old boosting us and making us realize that it's never too late to choose whatever you want to do in the world.
it's very empowering. It's very empowering. I mean, I did something really brave, when I was healing, because I did have to take time to heal, I cashed in my savings and I said, I don't know what is going to happen next, but I want a super awesome life. And my sons had arranged to live and work in Australia for a year.
Yeah.
And I said, after all this had happened, and it was so much, oh my gosh, what's next? I said to them, I'd love to visit you, but I just don't know how this is going to happen. And one of my sons looked at me and he said, Mom, it's okay. It's just like university. Why don't you come drop us off? And you know what? And that's what I did. And I went and I traveled with them. We traveled together for 3 or 4 months, and I dropped them off, and we visited New Zealand and Fiji and Hawaii.
Wow.
And not knowing, I didn't know where the next dime was going to come from. I really didn't.
Love it.
You know what? Good for us. And we share, and you know what? We built those memories because I hadn't been able to spend time with them.
Yeah.
And this was before COVID. I hadn't been able to spend a lot of time with them. And that was hard. That was challenging. And I got that time back. And that's something we can never get back. I was recently on a podcast and with a wonderful gentleman, Tony Chapman. And if you ever want inspiration, check it out. Tony Chapman, Chatter That Matters. And he said, the average human being and this is being human, the average human being has approximately 2.3 billion seconds of life on
Oh,
Earth.
gosh. Yeah.
I always say, how are you going to spend yours?
Yeah.
How are you going to spend yours? And look at you. You know what? You're an inspiration. You're really, but you're bringing people together because it's not easy. It's not easy for being in business for yourself,
Mm.
especially through, the waves of COVID and adjustments and changes and corrections.
Yeah.
So I applaud you for creating that sense of belonging. And I'm proud. I'm proud to be here.
Oh, gosh. You can come again. This is a great podcast. I love this.
Well, you got to give credit where credit's due. And
I
I'm
haven't
glad you
paid you
talked
a
about
penny to say any of
celebrating.
that. Um, one of the questions I always ask people, and I'm curious, and it's a question I've stolen from Simon Sinek, so apologies, Simon, but it works in that by asking somebody what one of their happiest memories are when they were younger, it has an influence on their adult life. So I'm wondering, what would you say when you're about 7 or 8? What was something that you remember? What's a story that you can share with me about when you were so happy for whatever reason? It might have been the person you were playing with, it might have been the activity you were doing, it might have been the place you were, the food you were eating. Can you have a memory that just you remember being blissfully happy?
I do. And thanks for asking. I went to a school. I went to a school in Hamilton, Ontario, an elementary school,
Hmm.
and it was an older school. It was built, in the 1920s, and it had this grand sort of meeting space in the middle. And you know
Yeah.
how you go into an auditorium, but it was really like going into a sort of an opera hall because it had the court, it had the staircases
Mm,
exposed on the top. It was beautiful architecture, and then it had this wonderful space that just filled the whole school up. It was the gathering space.
lovely.
And there was always a school play at that time. Now I know times have changed, but we were celebrating Christmas. I celebrate Christmas, and I obviously am respectful of other religions that don't. Sorry, my dog just barked there.
That's
I
okay.
don't know.
He's having fun. That's good.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You know what? Let's pause for a moment. Just she's barking. Share. Anyway, sorry about that. I hope I
Okay, we've sorted out the dog now. That's
we're
great. We're
sorting out the
okay.
dog.
So,
Anyway, you were asking me about my happiest moment. So
yes.
anyway, went to a beautiful school, beautiful gathering space, always had a holiday celebration. And I understand everybody celebrates holidays differently, but I celebrate Christmas and that's what we were celebrating. And
Hmm.
I was an angel in the school play.
Ah,
And it was my first sort of foray into being in a school play, because I was always shy. I was actually a very shy child, a very
yeah.
shy, read a lot, kept to myself. And it's sort of where I sort of came out of my shell. And I had people there that were excited. They were excited about the play. They were excited. It was a sense of belonging. It was new. It was fresh ideas. And it was, wow, you matter and you've got your voice and we want you to sing. And I was chosen to be sort of the lead angel and bring the good news.
It's a lead
And
role. It's a lead
I
role.
actually had I actually had a speaking part, right?
Yeah.
So I really found my voice. I really found my voice, and people respected me for what I had to say. And I thought, you know what, this is fun.
Yeah.
I'm not a theater person. I love to go to the theater, but I don't want to be an actress. And I
No.
admire people that can do that. That's not me. I'm not. I may joke about being the lead in somebody in my partner's life.
Yeah. It's a
My
tough
spouse's
job, I
life.
think, being an
It's
actor
a
and
tough
actress.
job. Oh,
Mm.
it's a very tough job.
Mm.
But I always like being my true authentic self. But it gave me that opportunity to have a sense of belonging and have fun and have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I know it's very important for you now to help children to understand about how they view their life, because it's like if you knew then what you know now, what would you want them to understand and know? What sort of things are you teaching young people now?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, I've sort of come full circle. I've written books for adults, which I'm very proud of, but now I'm creating for children, and I love it. I used to be a kindergarten teacher years ago. I
Oh, me
worked
too.
I worked in an indigenous community here in Canada underneath Hudson's Bay, and it was a fly-in community, so it was very isolated. There was only 500 people. We
Gosh.
didn't have running water, but
Oh,
we had kindergarten, so
well, it's halfway
very
there.
cold. very cold. We have those stereotypes in Canada about, do you have polar bear problems with your garbage and all those things. We were still within the tree line, but I taught kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 4, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And, I really had to be creative. And when you're teaching little ones, teaching life skills. I was in a community where unfortunately they had been devastated by the 60s scoop. I don't know if you've heard of that, where, people were children were scooped up and taken from their homes and put into
Awful. Yeah.
residential schools.
Yeah.
Very, very traumatic. And so there was a lot of ties broken then.
Yeah.
So I really had my first taste of teaching children about life, not just about how to read and how to write and how to do math, but just about life, how to be a good friend, how to be kind, how to stand up for yourself, how to be calm. And I really had to be clear and succinct. So I started making up little rhymes and little sayings to help them with that. So going back to that now, I've written a new book called Hi, I'm Cher, I Go Everywhere. And it's really about the superpower of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And if I knew, as I really wish as a child, I knew about the superpower of mindfulness. And because mindfulness is really the foundation of our lives. And I don't mean airy fairy, oh, I'm going to sit and meditate and everything's going to be fine. I mean, really about is being fully present with our real self and the awareness of our surroundings and the practice of relating to each other. It really guides how we relate to each other, who we choose as our friends, what we choose as our career, how we react to life, whether we respond. It's responding rather than reacting.
Yes. Yeah.
And so but in a fun, happy way. So now I've got a partner, business partner in the US and a friend. Her name is Monica Violet Joy Productions. And we've created a new channel, a little channel for children, an animated channel. Cher Goes Everywhere. It's on TikTok and on Instagram. And it's positive. It's all positive. It's all about positivity, and it's all about the superpower of mindfulness and teaching kids in a fun way. So that's really my passion. That's really, not that I don't like to speak to adults, I do, but it's fun
sometimes.
Yeah, but children really like the little one that you talked about, the 8-year-old that said yet. You know what? Children are gifts. They have so much wisdom, and we don't want to, as we go through adult life and we go through all those experiences, sometimes we lose that sense of wonder and that sense of, hey, I can do that. I can do anything. So that's what I'm talking about. And the researchers at Greater Good Institute at the University of California, it's really the awareness about paying attention. So you have children, I have children. Think about when you had your children and they started asking questions like, why is the sky blue?
Yeah.
Why is the sun yellow? Why is the grass green?
Yeah.
And you're looking at and I thought to myself, oh shoot, I don't really know why.
They're good questions.
They're good questions, but they notice. So I've got a new book coming out just before the holidays. Hi, I'm Cher, Go Everywhere. And I've got the channel. And it's really about creating positive content for children in a fun way. So everything rhymes. Everything rhymes. It's like Dr. Seuss meets Kobe Yamada. Have you heard of Kobe Yamada?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, fabulous author. He's in the US. And my books are really for grown-ups and children now.
Right.
So I've come full circle.
That's perfect.
And I'm really going to focus on kids now. I mean, I've made that choice.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I'm going to, and who knows where it's going to go. But again, I feel that it's a responsibility that we have as adults to children to give them the best start possible. Because we learn through our children too. And a lot of people forget that. A lot of people think, oh, I got to get up and make breakfast, or, oh, I got to do this. Children are a gift. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, if we don't spend time giving them space, letting them learn with us for themselves, rather than being told, this is what you have to do. Don't question me. I'm right, you're wrong. Like in the famous Matilda line, isn't it? The Roald Dahl story.
Yes.
if we don't give them that opportunity, what are they going to grow up like? Bullies were bullied. If you're going to hate
Yes.
somebody, that energy is going to carry on into something else. And that's kind of where we are in the world today. If you look at most social media channels, somebody was, I saw something the other day. There was a tweet that went out from two different people, two different celebrities in the UK, more or less saying the same thing, bar two or three words, which was about the communities supporting the mosques or the uh, synagogues or the hotels that had refugees and whatever they were doing. And they both said, well, hopefully we'll get some peace now. It's like, in other words, let's see if we can settle down. One of them was castigated, and the amount of abuse that came at her for what she'd said. And you look at the other one, who obviously had a different set of followers, and it was like, yeah, I agree. Oh, it's so much, I feel reassured. And it was so positive and powerful. And I'm like, how can the same thing create so many different
Yes.
scenarios in people's
Reactions.
minds? And if we don't start helping children to articulate what's going on in their minds and their hearts, and also to make good decisions and good choices in order
Hmm.
to support themselves and those around them, they have to know that they will affect those around them as well. You can't
Hmm.
just be in a grumpy mood and expect the people around you not to get affected by that. Then we have to take that responsibility, as you are doing and many others are doing, is to give them avenues where they can find this
Yes,
stuff out and learn
that's
about it and armor themselves up, not to be defensive, but so they don't get sucked in and pulled down
so
by
they
it.
don't get that's an excellent explanation. So they don't get pulled away. They don't get
Mm.
pulled away from the pure essence of what who they are. And I used to volunteer in a kindergarten classroom as well. And again, I that was my first short story. That's how I got published
Oh,
on Medium.
yeah.
Uh, Vocal Medium is publishing a fun short story about a little boy that I met, a Dash, who wanted to, he wanted to open a flower shop, and we were on the Fisher Price cash register, pretending,
Yeah.
in a good way at the flower shop. And, he said, I said, okay, well, who's going to be on cash, you or me? And, we're sitting there. And I said, Adesh, you really seem to like flowers, and being at the flower shop, because he'd come into the classroom every day and say, is the flower shop open today? And I say, you bet it is. You
Oh,
bet it is. It's
lovely.
all bright as a new penny.
Yeah.
And, again, I just said, you seem to like it here. You seem to like this. And he said, I do. And I said, have you ever considered owning your own flower shop one day? And it was like,
Mhm.
bingo,
Yeah.
like his face lit up and a light bulb went on.
Yeah.
And it was the connection between, okay, this is something I like. I'm being mindful. I'm doing something. I'm being present and aware.
Mm.
I can make discoveries everywhere. I'm rhyming because that's what I do. And that's what I've tried to do for children in Hi, I'm Sherry Go Everywhere, and grown-ups. It's a book for children about the superpower of mindfulness, but also grown-ups to teach these life skills in a fun, happy way. So I tell you a fun story about Cher, my
Mm.
dog, was barking. I have a working dog because of some hearing challenges from
Mhm.
from my injury, but she helps me be present and aware. She's very mindful,
Mm.
and I looked through her eyes, and that's where the book it comes from. It's told through the wise eyes of Cher, who
Oh,
goes everywhere,
yeah.
truly, and is explaining about mindfulness. So when we are mindful, we are fully present and aware, and we can make discoveries everywhere. And it talks about what's love, what's being calm, in just one sentence, really
Wow.
easy to remember. And that's
That's
my gift. I
yeah.
discovered my gift through trauma and tragedy. I discovered my gifts and discovered
Yes.
my
Yes.
purpose.
And had you not had that horrific thing happen to you,
Yes,
who knows where you would be today? It would be a different scenario completely, wouldn't it?
it may have been. I may not have met you. I may not, I probably wouldn't have been writing. I mean, I really enjoyed what I was doing, but now
Mm.
I know there's that knowing of, I know this is my purpose.
Yeah.
And I've just switched it over to, somebody said, would you write a book for children? And I said, you know what, I'd really like to do that. And so when I did, I got the message, that place in your heart where it feels good and you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing at the right time.
Mm.
And I I thought, okay, this is for me. This is for me. And then when I was very, very grateful and lucky and fortunate and blessed to meet Monica and, be connected like I am to you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just, we're trying to change the world and have fun at the same time and make a living. So
Well,
yeah, put it
that's
all
not
together.
that's
And
not a bad thing to do, is it? And
it's
help all
not.
the young children of the world. I mean, just as a by the by, that's what's going to happen as well. It's phenomenal, and I think there are more and more people out there now that are realizing that children need to understand how to be in control of their emotions. And
Yes.
I mean, I've had a couple of clients who've written beautiful books around yoga, about the physicality and the emotional side of things as well.
Mhm.
And mindfulness kind of has been through a bit of bad press, I think, from some quarters where everyone thinks it's a bit fluffy and, oh, mindfulness, you're supposed to go off and empty your mind of things and then think of happy thoughts. And it's like, well, yes, but no.
Mhm.
And understanding the power of choosing your thoughts, I think, it
Yes.
can never be underestimated. People don't think they have a choice. Oh, well, the red mist came up and I couldn't help myself. I lost my temper. Well, you could,
Yes. You
there are
can.
other
Yeah.
ways around having to go down what you think is the inevitable route of losing your temper and then go, I don't remember anything. Did I get angry? Oh, I don't remember. No, I'm sorry. That's, I don't buy that.
It also helps you, if you have a health challenge. I mean, there's many health benefits to it. If you
Mhm.
have a health challenge, it also can help you heal faster. I mean, there's scientific evidence about that because mindfulness releases a very important chemical in your brain called serotonin.
Right.
And serotonin, that's really the happy chemical. And it's also it helps you respond rather than react. It
Yeah.
helps you take a moment and sit back and say, when people are rude or people are angry, it's not you. I used to have a lot of self-blame, before I started, being more
Mm,
intentional with my life. And
mm.
if somebody was angry with me, I thought, what have I done? What have I
Yes,
done?
me
You
too.
know?
Yeah.
And then I just said, no, I learned that was one of my lessons that I've learned is no, that's a reflection of that person. That's a reflection about their feelings and
Mm,
emotions, and their thoughts. It's not me.
yeah.
And I might say to someone, I'm sorry you feel that way. This is what I was intending to say to you. But I don't blame myself. I'm very, Brene Brown in the United States
Hmm.
has a wonderful saying, vulnerability is our superpower. And
Yes.
as Canadians, we're known for being very polite
Yes.
and being very human and maybe overly so, right? It's
Yeah.
funny, I'll apologize to someone, but I don't take responsibility for their
Mm,
feelings, emotions. I don't
mm.
take responsibility for their actions. And I think I probably, like many people, used to do that.
Yeah.
And and that's what mindfulness brings to your life. It's just that, okay, you know what? You're better equipped to get through life and all the stuff that the nonsense, the grown-up nonsense that's out there. The casserole of nonsense. That's an Australian expression I learned.
Do you
Better
know what?
equipped to get through the casserole of
You are a
nonsense.
t-shirt waiting to happen. Every 2 minutes you come out with a logo that I'm like, that's a good one.
Well, that's what I'm going to do. That's,
I
that's what
like
I'm going to
the
do.
past is a
I
chapter
sometimes
not
don't
the whole
have
book.
time. Yeah.
There's so many things. And I think mindfulness from my perspective is having learned bits and pieces. You don't have to go on a week-long course to learn all about it. You can just take bits and pieces from different wonderful people like yourself that you can go, huh, oh yeah, okay, and then you have it in your back pocket for those incidences that will still happen where somebody is up in your face really angry with you about something, and you
Mhm.
can just detach yourself, and in the moment you will get upset, you will get angry, you
Oh,
will think,
sure.
what have I done, you will think, oh, there, and you want to have a go back. But by the time you remove yourself and think, okay, let's decompress, don't take any action, let's think about this. And now I'm going to deal with it in a state that is rational, a state that's going to help that person who just blew up in my face. They're the ones
Mhm.
that need the support. So, how am I going to be able to answer them, come back to them in a dignified way? And I've always said to my kids, you kill them with kindness.
Yeah.
You are
Free
so
behavior
kind
thing.
to them,
Protect.
your ears will bleed, literally. And over the years, when they've had incidences with, school friends or uni friends or whatever, I said, look, they are not the only friend in the world. That's fine.
Yes.
But you
Yeah.
are so nice to them. So my youngest daughter had an issue with a friend at uni, and went through the I won't tell you the whole, maybe I will one day tell you the whole story, but
Yeah.
the very first term, they had this little contretemps, shall we say, and it was mortifying for everybody concerned. And at the end of the 3 years, she searched out my daughter and said, "I'm so sorry, I did that to you. I
Wow.
really, really," and she was crying.
That's a
And
very, very kind, brave soul to do that.
exactly, exactly. And Nicola was like,
Brave
she
soul to
accepted
do that.
it, and she, was, but she said, I had no animosity to her whatsoever because I'd learned how to let it go and move on.
Mm.
And it was sitting with her, and it wasn't with me, and I had to deal up. Yes, I was upset at the time, but because you're feeling vulnerable in your first term at a new place, aren't you? But she said it was, she said, I'm never going to be her best friend, but I don't hold any grudge against her or any upset towards her. And at least she came over and apologized. So that's her letting it go as well, which is a lovely thought that she doesn't need.
That is that, and it's so refreshing. And those are the types of stories that are true to life. And I mean, my story is true to life. It's not fabricated. I mean, yes, as an author, as a writer now, I understand you make a very important decision when you're writing.
Yeah.
Is this true? Is this is this truth, or is in fact, or is this fiction, or
Mm.
is it based on something that
Mm.
happened?
Yeah.
And that's where the line gets blurred. That's where the line gets blurred, I think, oftentimes between fantasy and reality. And that's one of the reasons I've written this book and that I'm collaborating with Monica Violet Joy. We're in a healthy, fun way, silly way, teaching young children about the superpower of mindfulness. And it's great to pretend and it's great to imagine, but you can't get lost in that. You really have to face your feelings, and it's okay to face your fears and say that you're upset.
Yeah.
That's okay, because that's real life.
Yes.
That's
Sure.
okay. But it's having the tools to deal with it.
Yeah.
Mindfulness gives us all that superpower of having those tools and resources, the outside in thinking, responding rather than reacting.
Yeah.
um, and just and arming ourselves, putting on our shield, so to speak, and helping us think more positively about ourselves and others, because we can be our own worst critics
Oh
sometimes.
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can be really hard on yourself, and that happens. That happens all the time. And so I'm just trying to give grown-ups and children the opportunity to have that super awesome life, to create. I believe you don't just find happiness, you create it. You
Mm.
create those wonderful memories. And you are what you eat, you are what you think.
Yes. Yes. And they all have an effect on your physicality as well as the
Yes.
emotional as well. So, Jane, if I were to ask you in 5 years' time, what would you be doing? Have you got a picture of where you're going with your purpose? Where's it going to take you?
Well, I do. I do, in a happy way. I see a happy, bright, healthy, wealthy future. I really, it's funny. Again, I'm very honest with people. I really love what I do, and I love creating. But I really want to make a better living monetarily at this, right? So
Yeah,
obviously,
you
I
spent
say to
all your
myself,
savings.
yeah, exactly. I want to build up. I want to build on my successes and the foundation.
Mm.
But I also want to write a series of children's books. I really do. I want. It's just this is just the beginning, and I want to really have the best of my life. Free and clear
Mm.
of all those self doubts, that one has in their mind about, did I do the right thing? I know I've done the right thing, and I
Yeah,
want to make the most of it now. I really want to.
absolutely.
I really want to build on my successes. I
Yeah.
do philanthropy. I'm a volunteer director at Brain Canada, an organization in Canada that helps people, funds research
Yeah.
for advancements in brain research. I
Wow.
want to be more philanthropic. I want to support my community. I want to, hopefully in 5, 10 years time, I'll have some grandchildren. I want to spend time with them. I want to spend time with my family,
Yeah.
and I just want to be very intentional and purposeful and focus, and spend time doing things that bring me joy and happiness, because we just never know, we never know how much time we have.
And who could ask for more, really? That's all we ever want. If there's somebody listening to this podcast and that loves the sound of your books and might be able to help you, What's sort of missing in your chain of getting it out to the world? Who are you looking for that might be able to help?
Thank you for that. Well, there's two parts to being an author. There's the writing part, there's the creating part, there's the create, and
Yeah.
I'm not just an author, I'm a creator, I'm a speaker as
Mm,
well. But there's also the marketing and distribution part. And that's where I really need help because you put on one hat to create, you put on one hat to do, it's I call it the business of writing. So I
yes.
really want to reach a broader audience. I'd love to have my books in Ronald McDonald houses and hospitals and libraries and
Yeah.
places where people really, are really going through, a tough time and
Mm,
need that lift.
mm,
Not everybody can afford to buy a book, but in spaces and places where children and grown-ups are and teachers and classrooms and
lovely.
that's really
Yeah.
what I need the help with is in finding the perfect partners to really shine and also shine across the world in different languages. So
Yes.
you're a business coach. I probably need some help from you. I've been in business for myself a long time, but it is publishing and writing and authoring your own books. It's a whole different kettle of fish.
I think we all go into business, don't we? Thinking it's going to be easy because you're a specialist in this area, so I can really do that. And then you forget there's all these other things you're supposed to do in a business as
Yeah,
well. You're like, oh, I don't like that
exactly.
bit. I don't want to do that bit. It's not my thing. And it has to get done. So that's why we collaborate. That's the whole point of bringing good people together with different skills and different energies and insights into things. So, I mean, Matali is going to be, if you haven't already spoken to her, as our sort of resident publisher, she's going to have a wealth of advice for you
Oh,
to
she
find out
does.
about
She does.
distribution
She's
and
wonderful.
marketing.
Yeah, she.
But I'm sure there will be others as well. Anybody that's listening, if somebody can help you in that sphere, what's the easiest way to get hold of you, Jane?
Oh, just I think via email. They can go to my website, janeenwrightauthor.com. And of course, they can go to my new channel, Share Goes Everywhere on TikTok and on Instagram, and janeenwright.author on Instagram and LinkedIn, Jane Enright Author. But the best way to reach me and reach out would be Jane at janeenwrightauthor.com. And if you visit my website, people can learn more about me, who I am, what I do, what I'm doing. And I'm also the type of person like you, it's not just one sided. Maybe I can help them.
Mm.
Maybe I can help them with their journey. And that's what I'm trying to do with my life is be very purposeful and insight and inspirational by providing some insight that can help make your life better and easier and happier and healthier. So thank you for that.
That's beautiful. And of course, if you come to a Collaboration Global session, then you might see Jane there as well. So we have a guest session every month. It's always the last Tuesday of the month. And you're very welcome to come along to that and meet Jane too. So that's at collaborationglobal.org, or go onto Eventbrite and search for Collaboration Global and you can find it there as well. They're online sessions. So wherever you are in the world, you are very welcome to join us for a fabulous conversation about things like mindfulness. Jane, thank you so much. I mean, we haven't really scratched the surface of where you've been and what you've done and where you've come from, but the essence of what you're about, the mindfulness. And I love the fact that you say mindfulness is the foundation of our lives, and the past is a chapter, not the whole book. And to have written books as well, Butter Side Up, obviously, for the grown-ups, and then the other stories about Share for the children. I can't wait to get my hands on one of those for my grandchildren.
Oh, thank
And
you.
thank you so much for this time. I really appreciated it.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun. Global Collaboration is a fun group. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and always helpful, always willing to help. And thank you for creating that. Thank you for sharing your gifts. I'm really excited, and thank you for the opportunity to be on this podcast. And I hope that whoever's listening will find inspiration. I hope they'll find a kernel of wisdom and motivation, a little nudge to keep them going in the right direction.
And indeed, if you do, please put a comment on the web on the show notes or on the YouTube channel when all these links go out. We'll put all the connections on there for you to get in touch with Jane. But if you've been inspired or if you've gone through a similar situation and you're looking for more knowledge and information about mindfulness, then please do get in touch. That would be fantastic. Thank you again, Jane.
Thank you so much, Jill. Have a wonderful day.